Alright, so I'm going to try and keep this short because I don't really think this warrants a three-part review. The NC700 has been out for a really long time, so there's no reason that you don't know about it if you were looking into it to begin with. But from an American's perspective, I'm going to give you an idea as to why this bike exists. And I'm going to use an analogy. I'm going to call a stereotype out. Doesn't mean it actually exists or this is how everyone is, but I think most people who've had this happen to them in their life before will understand exactly what I mean. So starting off, the NC700 is a bike that makes sense for Japan. Primarily Japan. The bike itself for America, it takes on a completely different role that is filled by a lot of other motorcycles, and you could almost say better, simply because of the way and the environment that you use it in. Here, the NC700 shines mostly because all the categories that Japan cares about, or the categories that you're going to use, storage, comfortable, speed, capability, that bike's got them in spades, and then some. It's not the fastest thing on the road, no, far from it, but it's faster than a lot of things here. But that's because here, everything is scaled down as compared to America, where we've got these vehicles that go well over 100 miles per hour with no questions asked. But that's why here in Japan, the bike is made for here. You can tell it. Whereas in America, it's a little bit more difficult. Now, for the bike itself, hear me out on this one. The NC700 is literally the girlfriend that does absolutely nothing wrong and does almost everything just fine. It's not perfect, it's not amazing, it's just across the board she does everything well. She cooks. Her cooking isn't spectacular, but it's great. Her work ethic is really good. It's not the best in the shop, or it's not the best in the workplace, but it's good, and she is successful because of it. She takes care of you. She's really good. She makes mistakes, but then she owns up to them. And she doesn't do anything out of the norm. She never does anything unexpected. And for people who know what I'm talking about, that is its one fault and its greatest strength. That is, the bike itself is boring. It is very boring compared to something like my Daytona or a sport bike, as in, it doesn't have a problem. It really doesn't. So when you're using it, when you're riding it, it works. It does everything you ask of it. And that can get annoying to some people. Now, if you're in an environment where this makes sense, like, I almost wanted to trade it in. I was really close to trading it in for a sport bike. But I stopped myself because there's a bit of utility that I have to have no matter what. And while it could be filled on a sport bike, it's better filled on that motorcycle. And as I kind of accepted that more, I've come to love it. I love it a lot more than I did when I first got it. I loved it then, but I love it more. My heart still belongs to sport bikes, no matter what. But the bike itself is something spectacular that I think most people shouldn't overlook, but I can see why it's not for someone in the States who's experienced. I can see why this bike would not sell there. Even if they did bring the 750 to the States, it still would not be as good, or would not be as useful down there as it is here. So, for those of you, I'm going to fast forward to this part just to make sure, so people don't have to waste their time with 4 minutes of video. If you're looking at the bike, ask yourself the question, are you a beginner? Do you need to go over 60 miles per hour, 60 or 70 miles per hour? Do you need luggage? Do you need comfortability? If you need any of those things, the bike can meet your needs and then some. That's not a problem for it. But if you're young and adrenaline's pumping through your veins, would highly recommend you look somewhere else. And no, it's not an old person thing. I'm not old, but it's comfortable, and it's definitely a very different world that I've actually come to like a lot more than I thought I would have back in the day. So, verdict on it, I think it's a good bike. I think it's a very good bike that is designed for a very specific audience, and you may not be that audience. Take it for what it will. Anyway, deuces.